My name is Sarah, and I work as an administrative assistant at Bright Futures Marketing in Chicago. Every morning I step into the office, filled with hopes and dreams, yet a knot of worry settles in my stomach. I'm passionate about my job, but lately things have changed. The office buzzes with chatter, yet a silence seems to surround me. My colleagues often avoid eye contact, and the friendly smiles I once knew have disappeared. I feel small and unsure, as if I'm walking on a tightrope trying to keep my balance. I know something is lurking beneath the surface, and I must face my biggest challenge yet, which makes my heart race. As I settled into my desk one Friday morning, the atmosphere in the office felt tense. My manager, Mr. Jenkins, called me to his office for our weekly meeting. My hands felt clammy as I walked down the narrow hallway, each step echoing my anxiety. What could he want to talk about? Did I make a mistake? Thoughts rushed through my mind like a wild wind, swirling around my head. I entered his office and he looked serious. "Sarah, please take a seat," he said. As I sat down, I noticed the huge stack of papers on his desk and the tired look in his eyes. He cleared his throat and began. "I need your help with something important. The clients are unhappy, and I want to make sure we deliver the best service." The knot in my stomach tightened. It felt as if the air had suddenly become heavy. "Yes, of course, Mr. Jenkins," I replied, trying to sound confident, but my voice wavered slightly. He asked me to prepare a presentation for our upcoming meeting with the clients. I stared blankly at him, my mind swirling with doubt. I had never made a presentation like that before. Would I mess it up in front of important clients? What if they didn't like my ideas? As I returned to my desk, I could feel anxiety creeping in like a shadow. I sat staring at my computer screen, feeling overwhelmed. My heart raced with thoughts of failure. Suddenly, Linda, a coworker I admired for her expertise, walked by. I decided to reach out for help. After all, I was new to this responsibility. "Hey Linda, can you help me with this presentation? I'm not sure where to start," I asked nervously. She smiled warmly and nodded. "Of course, Sarah. Let's work on it together." I felt a tiny spark of relief. But as we began brainstorming ideas, I found myself becoming uncertain again. Every time I shared an idea, I worried it wasn't good enough. What if they think my ideas are silly? What if they don't take me seriously? I thought, feeling my cheeks flush with embarrassment. Linda encouraged me, but each bit of her support only stoked my fears. When it was my turn to present my section of the slides, I felt my palms sweating. The words in my head jumbled together, and I took a deep breath, hoping for the best. My legs felt weak, and I glanced at the faces of colleagues around me. Mr. Jenkins was in the back, watching me closely. Why did I feel so small? The moment I began speaking, my voice shook slightly, but I pushed through. I fought the nagging voice in my head that told me I was not good enough. Each word I spoke felt like I was climbing a mountain, and I just wanted to reach the top without falling. However, halfway through my presentation, a member of the client team interrupted me. "That doesn't make sense. Can you clarify?" My heart sank. I floundered for a moment, feeling an overwhelming wave of panic. Did I really understand my slides? I stuttered over my words, trying to find a way to respond. The doubt surged within me, making everything feel even more challenging. I struggled to regain my composure, wishing I could disappear. The following weeks were a blur of chaos and pressure. After my shaky presentation, I had hoped things would get easier, but I was wrong. The clients were not satisfied, and Mr. Jenkins expected perfection. Each day, I felt the weight of his expectations pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. Many days it felt hard to breathe. Just when I thought things couldn't get more difficult, another challenge arose. A new colleague, Tom, joined our team, and with him came an attitude that made my heart race in fear. He was confident, but his confidence felt more like arrogance. Whenever he was around, I felt small and unsure, constantly worried about his harsh comments. During our meetings, I struggled to speak up. His laughter echoed when I suggested ideas, making me feel like I was underwater, silently drowning while everyone else swam freely. One sunny afternoon, our team gathered for a meeting to discuss a new project. I had prepared a few ideas for my part, wishing this time would be different. As I spoke, I noticed Tom rolling his eyes at my suggestions. My face burned with embarrassment, and I stumbled over my words, aware of his dismissive attitude. When I finished, he interrupted me. That's unrealistic, Sarah. We need serious ideas, not dreams, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. My heart sank and all my hard work felt pointless. I wanted to melt into my chair and disappear. After the meeting, the tension in the office grew thicker. I could feel Mr. Jenkins' increasing disappointment. We need this project to succeed, Sarah, he reminded me, glancing at the clock. The deadline is next week. Focus, please. I felt the room close in around me, pressing in on every thought. How could I meet that deadline if I felt so lost? Each night I found it difficult to sleep. I would lie in bed, thoughts racing. Perhaps I didn't belong here. Maybe I was not cut out for this position after all. I complained to my friend Jake during lunch, my voice low and heavy with anxiety. What if I'm not good enough? I said, my eyes welling with tears. Everyone seems to be better than me. Jake looked at me kindly. But you are trying, Sarah. It's okay to feel uncertain. You can't expect to have everything figured out right away. His support made me feel slightly lighter, but fear still gnawed at my insides. The day before the deadline, Tom cornered me in the break room. You really need to step up, don't you think? He said, arms crossed. His words hung in the air like a bad smell. The walls seemed to close in again, and a rush of frustration surged through me. This was becoming too much. Walking back to my desk, I took a deep breath. My vision began to blur with tears, but I felt something start to shift inside me. I realized that I could no longer let Tom's words define me. I thought about the support I had from my friends, especially Jake, who had reminded me that everyone feels lost sometimes. Something stirred in me, and a spark of determination lit up my spirit. I decided I had to change my approach. I would stand tall against the pressure. No more hiding. It was time to take hold of my feelings and turn them into strength. I would show everyone, including myself, that I could rise above this challenge. The day of the presentation arrived, and a wave of nerves washed over me. I had worked hard, putting together my part of the project despite the pressure from Tom and Mr. Jenkins. The clock on the wall ticked down the minutes, reminding me that time was running out. I could feel anxiety twisting my stomach into knots as the meeting drew closer. The conference room was fully packed with our team, and the clients waiting to hear our ideas. I took a deep breath, scanning the room for a moment to gather my thoughts. When my eyes landed on Tom, he shot me a smug glance, as if he already knew I'd struggle. My fears bubbled to the surface, and for a moment I almost turned back. What if I stumbled like before? What if I messed up completely? As Mr. Jenkins introduced me, I flashed a smile rooted in uncertainty. I stepped to the front, holding onto my notes tightly. The weight of everyone's eyes on me felt heavy, almost suffocating. But then something inside me shifted. I remembered Jake's words. I remembered the hard work I had put in to prepare. I was done letting fear control me. It was time to take a stand. As I began my presentation, I felt a surge of determination rise within me. My voice was shaky at first, but I focused on delivering my ideas clearly, allowing the words to flow. I explained my concepts confidently, using everything I had learned from weeks of painstaking effort. I could see a few nodding heads in the audience, and this boosted my courage even more. Halfway through my presentation, I noticed Tom whispering to a colleague, snickering at my points. A surge of anger ignited within me. Instead of letting it beat me down, I took a breath and addressed him directly. Tom, I believe it's important to support each other, especially in front of the clients. My voice was steady, and a sense of relief washed over me. I had made a choice. I would not allow his sarcasm to derail me any longer. As I continued, I felt my confidence building. I gestured to the slides I'd created, explaining the details and how they addressed the client's needs. My heart raced, but every word felt freer. I even caught Mr. Jenkins nodding, and for the first time, I felt his approval behind his usual serious demeanor. However, then came the moment I had been dreading. Just as I was wrapping up, one of the clients raised her hand. Sarah, I have a question, she said, leaning forward. Can you explain how this will work in our market? A hush fell over the room and my heart dropped. Had I done enough research? I paused, feeling the anxiety creep in. But I remembered my earlier commitment to stand tall. I took a breath to steady myself and replied, absolutely. Our proposal is designed to fit your needs. In the current market, we believe. I began to explain, piecing together what I knew. This was my moment to show I belonged in this room. As I spoke, the fear slowly transformed into energy. My ideas flowed, and the clients started nodding in agreement. I saw the glimmer of interest on their faces. Suddenly, everything else around me faded. All the doubt, all the fear. It was just me and my words. Regaining my focus, I finished strong, throwing in a positive conclusion that invited discussion. I looked around the room, my heart racing, feeling both proud and relieved. I had faced my fears and fought against self-doubt, and I realized in that moment that I could rise above anything that came my way. As soon as I finished my presentation, a soft murmur filled the room. I took a deep breath, hoping my heart would settle. Mr. Jenkins smiled and nodded at me, his approval shining through. The clients leaned closer, whispering to each other. I had taken the plunge, and now all I could do was wait for their response. The client who had asked about our market approach raised her hand again and said, "I appreciate your insights, Sarah. It's clear you put a lot of thought into this. We'd like to discuss some ideas with you." My heart soared at her words. Did I hear her right? They wanted to hear more from me. Tom, who had doubted my every word moments ago, remained silent. His usual smirk was replaced by a tight line on his lips. I realized that my action hadn't backfired. Instead, it had brought respect from the clients and, surprisingly, from my team too. Those moments were like warm rays of sunshine breaking through a gloomy sky, lighting my path in that heavy room. As the meeting continued, other team members began to offer more of their support. I caught Linda glancing at me with approval, her previous encouragement strengthening my resolve. Even Mr. Jenkins chimed in with praise, saying, "Great job, Sarah. You handled the questions like a pro." My chest swelled with pride, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I truly belonged in this space. After the presentation, people came up to me one by one, congratulating me. They offered words of encouragement and said they saw new potential in me. I felt both relieved and excited as the weight of a mountain slowly lifted off my shoulders. I was no longer that unsure administrative assistant who tiptoed around her doubts. But then there was Tom. To my surprise, he approached me, his expression more neutral than before. "You did well out there, Sarah," he admitted, though I could sense the grudging tone in his voice. Something shifted in me at that moment. I realized that I had risen above his negativity, and my validation didn't depend on his approval. I gained strength and assurance from my experience that even his words couldn't shake. Something clicked in my mind. I also recognized that it was okay to feel scared but important to find courage within. I learned that taking risks is part of my journey, and that overcoming those fears can lead to newfound respect. This was more than just a presentation. It was about changing my mentality, standing firm despite challenges, and committing to my growth. As I left the conference room and walked back to my desk, I felt renewed. I had changed my narrative from fear to resilience. In a matter of hours, I became not just an assistant but an empowered teammate. I realized hard work pays off, and confronting challenges head-on reveals a strength I didn't know I possessed. I was ready for whatever was next, eager to embrace my role and succeed on my terms. With a smile on my face, I sat down at my computer, ready to take on the next task. This was just the beginning of my story, and I felt hopeful about what lay ahead. I had stepped up and I knew I could do it again. Later that afternoon, I sat down with Linda in our favorite corner of the break room. The chatter of my coworkers mixed with the smell of freshly brewed coffee. I was still riding the high from the successful presentation, but a medley of thoughts swirled in my mind. I needed to process everything that had just happened. "Can you believe it, Linda?" I exclaimed, my energy bubbling over. I actually spoke up and they listened. It feels like a dream. I couldn't help but grin. Linda's face lit up with excitement, mirroring my own joy. "You did amazing, Sarah. I knew you could do it if you just let yourself shine," she said, her tone filled with pride. Sitting there, I felt a wave of gratitude for her support. "I really appreciate everything you did for me leading up to today. But, it was more than just the presentation. It changed how I see myself." Linda nodded, encouraging me to continue. "Go on," she said, taking a sip of her coffee. I paused, choosing my words carefully. Before this, I let Tom's attitude make me doubt myself. I was always so unsure and scared to speak up. But today, I felt different. I realized I didn't need his approval to feel valuable. These thoughts poured from me, and I could feel the weight lifting from my shoulders. Linda smiled knowingly. Sometimes it takes one big push to recognize our strengths. You found your voice when you stepped out of your comfort zone. That's a huge step forward. As I reflected, I thought about the moments right before the meeting. The tension in my chest, the doubt. But now, sitting with Linda, I felt lighter. I've learned that fear is not the end of the story. It's just a part of the journey. If I keep pushing through, there's so much more I can achieve. Absolutely, she said. Everyone faces fear at some point. It's how you respond to it that makes the difference. You have every right to take pride in your work. Her encouragement warmed my heart, filling me with a sense of belonging. I also learned that asking for help is okay. Last month, I would have never done that, thinking I needed to handle everything alone. But leaning on others helped me prepare and become stronger. I took another sip of my coffee, feeling a new confidence blossoming within me. Linda leaned back in her chair, looking thoughtful. It's great to recognize the importance of teamwork. You don't have to face challenges by yourself. We lift each other up. I nodded, appreciating her insight. The gravity of that lesson felt profound. I understood now that improvement isn't a solitary journey. It's about sharing experiences and learning together. Suddenly, I felt a surge of motivation. Next time, I won't just be an assistant. I'll be a participant in our projects. I want to contribute even more. Who knows, maybe I could take the lead on something. The thought sent shivers of excitement down my spine, dreams of being recognized filling my mind. Linda grinned, raising her cup to toast. To new beginnings and finding your voice. Our laughter echoed in the break room, and for the first time, I truly felt I was on the right path. I had turned a corner in my growth journey, and with each small step, I was becoming the confident, capable person I had always wanted to be. The following days at Bright Futures Marketing felt completely different for me. I was no longer just trying to blend into the backdrop. Instead, I found myself stepping into the light. Each morning I walked into the office with my head held high, ready to face whatever was on my agenda. The knot of anxiety I once carried had loosened, replaced by a spark of determination. My first challenge came quickly when Mr. Jenkins asked for ideas for our next big project. In the past, I would have hesitated, feeling nervous about sharing my thoughts. But this time I took a deep breath and raised my hand. I have an idea, I said, feeling the adrenaline rush through me as my voice rang clear in the room. Mr. Jenkins nodded, encouraging me to share. I presented my concept confidently, explaining my thoughts with the knowledge I had earned from the recent project. Instead of worrying about how others might react, I focused on how my contributions could help our team. To my surprise, my coworkers listened intently, and when I finished, they clapped in approval. Over lunch, I shared my new mindset with Linda. I've realized how important it is to contribute, I said, excitement bubbling in my voice. I used to hold back my opinions, afraid they weren't good enough. But now I see that every idea matters. We're all working toward the same goal. Linda smiled, clearly happy to see my growth. You're absolutely right. Every voice adds value. I can see how much more confident you are. And it's inspiring. Her words filled me with encouragement, further motivating me to explore my potential. After that, I began looking for more opportunities to be involved. I volunteered to take the lead on drafting the agenda for our next team meeting. Instead of avoiding the project's details, I buried myself in research, excited to bring forward innovative ideas. Each piece of knowledge I uncovered made me feel more equipped, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. Moreover, when Tom tried to challenge me during discussions, I no longer shied away. During one instance, he dismissed my suggestions. Instead of retreating, I calmly responded, I think my ideas can bring value to the project. Let's break it down together and I can clarify. My tone was assertive but respectful, and simply stating my worth made a considerable shift in how he interacted with me moving forward. I also began to mentor a new intern who had just joined our team. Watching her hesitate to share her thoughts reminded me of my own past struggles. I offered to help her prepare for a meeting, reassuring her that her ideas were essential. It felt rewarding to share the lessons I had learned and support someone else in finding their voice. Bit by bit, I felt a change in my approach to work and my colleagues. I eagerly took part in brainstorming sessions, excited to collate input from others. Working as a team felt more natural, and my worry transformed into enthusiasm for collaboration. Making recommendations and discussing different viewpoints became enjoyable, rather than intimidating. I also sought feedback more actively. Each time I received it, I focused less on fear of criticism and more on using it to sharpen my skills and enhance my work. I approached Mr. Jenkins and asked him for advice on my presentation techniques, and he gladly provided insights that would only help me grow. Through all these small changes, I uncovered a sense of empowerment I had never known before. With each passing day, I embraced my newfound confidence, and it solidified into a core part of who I was becoming in my professional life. I was ready for more, determined to keep pushing forward into new challenges with hope and ambition. Weeks passed, and with each new day, I felt a growing sense of confidence permeate my work life. The office no longer seemed like a daunting place but rather a space where I could shine, share my ideas, and contribute meaningfully. My colleagues noticed the shift in my demeanor and treated me with newfound respect. I realized they appreciated me as part of the team. In those moments, I truly felt I belonged. One afternoon, as I worked on a project with Linda and a few others, the atmosphere was buzzing with creativity. We exchanged ideas, laughing as we collaborated on solutions. Instead of hiding in the corner with insecurity, I was coming alive in discussions, injecting life into our brainstorming. I took the lead in presenting our proposal to the management team, and the excitement soared through me. When it was my turn to speak, I stood tall in front of my colleagues and opened with a smile. I'm excited to share our project. We've taken inspiration from our recent successes, and I think it will set our work apart. The words flowed easily, and I glanced at the faces listening intently. I felt a rush of exhilaration as I tackled their questions head-on, using my knowledge and the lessons I had learned. The meeting ended with enthusiastic feedback, and my team praised my contribution. I could see that my efforts were being recognized, and this acknowledgement filled me with gratitude and pride. Taking a step back, I realized how far I had come. It seemed like just yesterday I was the hesitant assistant, fearful of my own voice. Now I was at the forefront, actively shaping our projects. Later that day, I chatted with Mr. Jenkins in his office. I wanted to express my thanks for his support during my growth. Mr. Jenkins, I wanted to say thank you. Your encouragement to present my ideas really helped me move forward, I confessed. He smiled broadly, his eyes sparkling with satisfaction. You've done the hard work yourself, Sarah. Seeing you take initiative and speak up has been inspiring. Never forget that you have what it takes, and it's important to keep moving forward. His words sank deep, solidifying my commitment to continue taking risks and nurturing my voice. As I left his office, I couldn't help but feel excited about the future. The lessons I had learned were not only relevant to my current role, but were also stepping stones for my growth in this field. With a newfound appetite for exploring challenges, I began planning for the next steps in my career. I identified goals to take on bigger projects and develop skills that could lead me to potential promotions. I spoke to Linda about pursuing additional workshops that focused on leadership skills. I wanted to be prepared for whatever paths lay ahead. Reflecting on the journey I had traveled, I realized every fearful moment had shaped my resilience and determination. I began to view obstacles as opportunities for growth. Fear was not my enemy but more of a call to action, nudging me to step outside my comfort zone even further. As I walked out of the office that evening, I looked around with a sense of appreciation. I admired the glowing lights of the city and felt grateful for my teammates, the supportive people who had shaped my journey. Though I knew I still had much to learn, the thought no longer scared me. I welcomed it with open arms as a chance to grow, to evolve, and become the best version of myself. Full of hope and optimism, I embraced the future ahead with determination, ready to face whatever came next with grace.